I've been now for about 3.5 years. I travel around the U.S. I do a one-day continuing education course on vision. And the question that gets asked the most, and the question that I get the most on the internet as well, is who do we refer to? We have ophthalmologists, we have optometrists, we have vision therapy doctors, and there is some confusion about who is the best doc to help find the problems that are affecting our kids' academic performance.
Okay, so the quick answer is to look for somebody who specializes in behavioral vision, a developmental optometrist, behavioral optometrist. Not just any optometrist is going to give you all the markers that you're looking for. Ophthalmology is almost completely disinterested in this domain. If there's no surgical or medical intervention involved, there's just very little to no interest. And so most of the behavioral concerns that we see are functional, not medical. Some of it borders into medical if we're talking about high prescription issues or amblyopia, otherwise known terribly as lazy eye. But mostly you're looking for an optometrist who can give you very specific assessments. And we can go through some of those elements if you like, but that's part of what we're going to be touching on in the Vision Rehab Roadshow, and certainly online through the Vision Mechanic. We want people to know what are these elements to look for in a vision exam. And in our Introduction to Human Vision course, that's covered. We want people to know what they should be getting out of an exam, what the parts mean or the components of the exam, what's being assessed, okay? And so, for example, you can, with appropriate knowledge, go and get the information from just about any optometrist who's willing to answer your questions. Let me give you an example. A very simple one is, let's talk about children again, what is the child's prescription? And so the glasses prescription is whether they're nearsighted or farsighted, whether they have astigmatism. But it goes beyond that a little bit. But the optometrist, any optometrist, should be able to assess that for you, give you the numbers, and explain what they mean to you. That doesn't happen very often. And so this is another reason why we're doing the Vision Rehab Roadshow and the Vision Mechanic Project, so people can know you shouldn't be reliant on paying somebody to get that information. So, who to refer to? If it's anything related to eyes or vision, just go to your family optometrist. Start there. If there's a need for surgical intervention, they will identify that, but probably you already know. We're talking about functional issues, the things we cannot see. Okay, the things that are tied to visual perceptual deficits, motor deficits, balance, spatial deficits, handwriting, fine motor skills, this kind of stuff. Okay, reading. And so your ophthalmologist is going to be able to tell you that the child has healthy eyes or not healthy eyes. And that's about it. The optometrist, again, the optometrist hopefully is going to take a little more time in assessing refraction or the kind of optics required for balancing sight. Beyond that, you really want a developmental optometrist who can help you determine what other elements are at play and what do those mean. It's probably your biggest bang for the buck. And so what else do we need to look at? We need to look at posture or alignment of the eyes. Is there a convergence restriction? Is there any kind of a vertical misalignment or lateral misalignment, in other words, strabismus? Do we have any opacities in the eyes, something that's preventing light from going through? But beyond that, is the prescription farsighted, nearsighted, astigmatic? These things matter. And again, we can teach you all about this through these various programs that we're doing. Next, are there significant oculomotor restrictions, functional restrictions? So are we having trouble with saccadic function, hitting that target across a line of text? Or are we having trouble just with mere fixation? Are we having trouble following a smoothly moving target through a pursuit movement? What happens, Robert, when the eyes cross the midline? Do we have what's called a midline hop and a correction? Or is it a nice smooth transition? All of these things can tell us a lot about what's going on, not to mention vergence ranges, accommodative range and response, various things. So these things need to be looked at in much more depth than simply looking at an eye chart. And here's another classic mistake, is even just on eye charts. Is your doctor asking a child to read a picture eye chart at 10 feet, and is that the assessment of vision? It's typically the case. The picture eye chart is of next to no use in actually quantifying visual acuity. Putting it at 10 feet makes no sense because children typically live within 2 feet of their eyes. And so we need to assess everything at near distance and at distance. And this is something that's typically not done. So who do you need to see? You certainly need to see somebody who can rule out medical concerns, but can also start looking at the functional things. Because in most cases, and you know this, Robert, that in most cases of visual functional problems, there is no medical concern. And I mean, sometimes you get a strabismus or an amblyopia, but again, those aren't typically best treated using medical procedures. And I know it sounds funny. How can you train a turned eye to be orthophoric or straight without surgery? That's a good question, and it is done. It's done often, and it's done non-surgically, and to great effect. It takes more time, it's quite complicated, but then the results of surgery also take time. They're also complicated, much more uncomfortable for the person in most cases. So at any rate, go and consult a functional optometrist. You can find these, I say functional, but it could be, they could be labeled developmental or behavioral or neuro optometrist, okay? And you can find them through COVD, the College of Optometry in Vision Development. You can go through NORA, the Neuro Optometric Rehab Association. There's ACBO, ACBO in Australia, and a few others around the world. But typically, if you're looking for a solution on vision that is non-medical, this is where you want to be, fundamentally just with a functional or developmental optometrist.
Well said, Doc. Thank you very much.
Wordy.